So, welcome everyone. It's so nice to see familiar names, maybe not faces, on the call, and lots of new names on the call. So, welcome. This is our webinar series we've been doing for a very long time. I am Jan Lehman. I'm the CEO and visionary of CTC Productivity. Our long game with our clients is really to create a culture where productivity fuels happiness. So we're not only looking to help companies work smarter, but we ultimately want the employees to be as happy as possible so they stay working for your companies. And we have three different services we offer. We're Microsoft 365 consultants. We do everything related to Microsoft. And we are productivity coaches, and we do productivity training. So productivity training would be the soft skill side of productivity, like teaching effective delegation, different things like that. And then also the technology side of leveraging the Microsoft suite. So we're super happy you're here. We threw things a little wonky today. We're doing our webinar on a Friday, which is kind of strange.
Mhm.
Normally we do our webinars on Tuesday, so we're glad you found us and you're here. And we're also normally we do our content and then we open it up for Q&A at the end. But Libby's got a lot to go through today, so we're asking people if you have questions, go ahead and ask them when she's on that particular slide. Otherwise, it's kind of maybe a little bit harder to go back if you want to see something on a slide. So feel free to unmute yourself or enter into chat if you have questions as we go through. I always like to call out the elephant in the room that people make fun of us that we use Zoom for our Microsoft 365 webinars, but we do it intentionally. Many of the people attending our webinars are on Google, and we don't want there to be a speed bump. So we figure if your grandma can get on Zoom, then anybody can get on Zoom. So we use it for our webinars, which sounds kind of silly. So today our topic is how to simplify meeting management with 365 Copilot and a lot of different tools. I'm super excited. Libby's on the call with us today, and she's actually going to be walking us through that topic. And then the topic tomorrow, or not tomorrow, geez, in 2 weeks, 2 months. Oh my gosh, I can tell it's a Friday. No wonder we shouldn't do these on Fridays anymore. The one on Friday. Oh God, oh my gosh. I've had a long week. The one in 2 months in January, back on a Tuesday, is actually on Microsoft Dynamics. And that's going to be a really good one. I know I'm going to learn a ton in that one. And I just entered into chat a bunch of links, and you could click on any of the links. There's links in there to register for that webinar. There's also links to sign up for like our YouTube channel and see the case study that I'm going to be talking about in a minute, and lots of things. You can also scan the QR code. So lots of different ways to get in there, find information. All right. So before I let Libby take the microphone, I always go through a couple slides. Sometimes people are just kind of finding us on YouTube. So I like to explain a little bit about how we work. We are advocates of using technology to solve business issues, not just playing with tech to play with tech. And today's a perfect example of that, where one of the things we hear clients complain about all the time are meetings, right? And a lot of people don't think about a meeting, but a meeting really is a process, right? It's not just the time you show up for the meeting, but it's a process before, during, and after. And so today's a perfect example of how we help companies solve business issues by looking at the workflow throughout the company. I'm getting a all right, I just got a pop up. So, oh, sorry, Libby, go back. I had a pop up. I don't know what's going on there. Thank you. So, what we normally say is if you have any of these issues, if your company is challenged around organization, collaboration, and a hybrid, remote, multi office environment, planning, accountability, any of these things, you should positively be looking at Microsoft 365. It's what got our attention. We don't sell Microsoft, Microsoft sells it to you. We're just trying to help you leverage one of your most important assets, and most people don't understand how to leverage it. So, okay, we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So we like to call a case study because at the end, we need to tempt you into why you're going to take the time to learn these new texts and all these kind of things. So this is a case study from Bowman Docs. They were a client, and it's simple business. Honestly, they install docs and remove docs, and their challenge was just like any small business. Like the whole process had become really complicated for scheduling and work orders and all that. And so they had all these disparate systems, and they were really struggling to find an application that can do it all. And a lot of times there's really great third party software that's out there that's client specific, industry specific. that can actually solve your needs, and that's great. But for a lot of industries, there's not. And so they were struggling with that, and they were finding they had so many duplication of activities and errors and all that. So there were a lot of challenges they were trying to overcome. And so we came in and developed a SharePoint solution for them. So a lot of people think SharePoint is just a place where you store documents, and it is. It's where you put your PowerPoint documents, your Word documents, but it's also a place where you can build out robust applications. And we do this all the time. Anybody that's on the call that is running on EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, we have built a solution to run EOS in the Microsoft 365 environment. So all that information is actually in your environment. And in all these scenarios, we build this actually in your environment, the client environment, so you own it going forward. So, but same thing here, we built out a solution for them within SharePoint to solve their needs. And one of the most important things is the crew really needed access to information when they were out in the field. And so we were able to build a solution that allowed their iPads and phones to use it. It says Microsoft is finally playing well with Apple. So that's a great thing. And then the crew and the management got really excited about the possibilities, and they continue to come up with more and more ideas to add on to the solution. So the results from it were, one of the biggest ones is that the manager that had been in charge of everything, we actually cut their work time in half. So I don't know what you pay your managers, but if you think about a manager having 50% of their day back, it's a pretty big ROI. And the crews now have all the information they need. They don't need to be running back to the office to get equipment because they know everything they need when they leave for the day. And everybody is much happier and less stressed, which we love. This is an example. You really can't see these screens too well, but this is the old work order system, that what it looked like. So, and then the new one, again, you're not really going to get a sense of how the tool works, but we like to show these screens because people are like, what does a SharePoint application look like? So this might be an example of that interface and what it looks like. So this is what it was for the work order system. And then this is an example of their old scheduling system. And then you're going to see a version of their new scheduling system. And again, all of it's integrated in, and you're seeing different views of the technology. So yeah, so it was a great little project. And the ROI at the end, it was only cost the company $12,000, which is nothing when you see the benefits that come from it. One of the great things about the work that we do is we actually build the solution in your Microsoft 365 environment. So you own it ongoing. You don't have an ongoing subscription fee. You don't pay us. So that's where a lot of companies are trying to get rid of third-party software and go all in with Microsoft 365 with our help. There's a couple different ROIs. Definitely the one with the manager saving 50% of their time. I'm sure that manager gets paid a lot more than $12,000. Yeah. So we significantly reduced that there. And then everybody's happier. The crews are less stressed, and everybody's much more productive at this point. So it's a great return on investment. So I hope that opens your mind to what's possible with Microsoft 365. So at this point, Libby, I'll turn it over to you. So Libby is one of our fabulous CTC productivity team members, and she's going to walk us through the topic today.
All right. So Jan already alluded to it. How do we simplify meeting management with Microsoft 365 and Copilot? And how do we encourage engagement? And I think the big thing is, why does this matter? Because we're spending a lot of time in meetings, right? We spend like a quarter of our time in meetings, some more. A third of those meetings are considered a waste of time, which that's terrible, right? Terrible to hear. We also spend a lot of time coordinating meetings, scheduling them, getting everybody's, kind of calendars lined up and figuring out when we can meet. And then half the people leave these meetings without even knowing what they should be doing next, right? So this is a lot of time spent on things that we're not really getting the efficiency out of it. So my goal today is to walk through a use case, and I'm going to be ironic here. Our scenario is that we're scheduling a meeting for a cross-functional team that is going to design their internal Microsoft 365 training program. So we're going to be the champions in this team using the tools to help other people use the tools. So in this case here, we're going to focus on a couple things. We're going to focus on scheduling and agenda building, collaboration, what that looks like before, during, and after the meeting. As Jan mentioned, this is a process, right? It's not just a one and done. And it's a one and done if you all of a sudden just show up to a meeting because it was on your calendar and haven't done any of the prep work. Well, then you're not really getting the value out of that meeting, and you could have just been informed after the meeting on what happened, right? And then also note taking and follow up. How are we following up with our tasks and things like that? So I'm going to walk through Outlook, Teams, OneNote, and in case you're not familiar with some of these other tools, Loop, Planner, and then Copilot is really in all of these tools. So we're not going to see any separate Copilot sections, but we're going to see that throughout the rest of the presentation here in terms of what these tools are. So we're going to start with Outlook.
Hey, Libby, can I interrupt real quick? I
please.
apologize. I forgot to mention, just to be forewarn everybody, this is not hands-on training. You're not going to be experts when you leave today. This is awareness training. So Libby's actually going through a lot of different tools. And again, our goal today is just to make you aware of the power of the technology and the importance of thinking through workflows and how it can drive productivity across your business. So don't be trying to like go, okay, I want to know how to do that, because you're not going to be able to keep up.
Yes,
so
that is true. Yes. Plus I talk fast and I'm trying to talk slower. So let me know if I talk too fast. All right, starting with Outlook and starting with scheduling. So as we learned, that back and forth nature is tough, right, when scheduling. So we're going to use a couple different tools in Outlook. So some of you might already know some of this information. My goal is that somewhere in here there's a tidbit for you. If if you've kind of done everything else, hopefully you find one or two tidbits. But so in this scenario, we're going to schedule that kickoff call. So I'm just going to go through and kind of do that process here. So picking a new event, adding my title, adding my attendees, and then we're going to use scheduling polls. So if you haven't done that before, that really takes the guesswork out of who's available in a meeting and what tentative means on their calendar, because I can just ask them to pick the times that work for them. And that also helps with external folks too, right? So we don't really know, we don't have access to their calendar. So they're going to pick the times that are best for them. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to just pick some times that are good for me. So I'm going to pick a couple here that makes sense. Maybe go to the next day, pick another one. And so I've given them 3 choices that they can respond to. And I've said, I want this meeting to be an hour and a half. So I've put some parameters in here. And then I have the ability to do some settings as well. So you can see there's my dates that it's going to go ahead and choose for me. And if I go into the manage poll, I can take a couple options here. So schedule when attendees reach consensus, right? It'll automatically schedule that meeting for me. I don't have to go compile people's responses and figure out what makes sense. It's going to do that for me. It's also going to hold those times on my calendar, so somebody doesn't book over those times when I'm in the middle of trying to get this meeting scheduled. And then it'll give me some notifications of what's happening. And of course, I can turn any of these things off. And then also, I can require that the attendees have to verify their identity, so they can't forward that to somebody else. I could uncheck that, and then they could delegate if they wanted to. So that's my choice here when I'm setting up this poll. And when I create poll, that puts it right in my email message, and then I can go ahead and add my agenda and things like that to the message, and then click send. That again holds those times on my calendar, so you can see that. And then
Libby, can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
You may. We said you could ask throughout, so you got it.
Would you recommend using scheduling poll even if it's just internal people instead of just scheduling assist through calendars?
Well, so I think that there's it depends on how you share calendars in your company. Okay. So sometimes you can only see free busy, and you don't know if they're actually busy doing something more important than the meeting you're trying to schedule.
Got it.
And so this lets them choose what makes sense for them. And so I think that if it's a big group and it's hard to schedule and you can't see their meetings, then I think yes. Otherwise, I will walk through what fine time looks like as well.
Okay.
And then you'll just let me know, Jan, if there's other questions that kind of come in here. But so what that looks like from the end user. So I'm in Susie's mailbox. She got invited to the meeting, and she has the ability to vote on those options, and she can pick, kind of where her preferences lie, and vote. And then Lance was invited as well, so he'll see his voting options, and he's already voted, so you can kind of see where he voted, and he can also see where other people voted. So sometimes if you see that this is a favorite for other people and you could move a meeting to accommodate that, then you might say yes, right? Whereas when we're looking at someone's calendar, we don't really have the context that that person has. So we can't make those decisions for them necessarily. Or we might have to go ask like, hey, I see something tentative on your calendar. Are you going to go to that? Or are you going to not go to that? And so we're kind of putting that onus on them to be able to vote and come up with that. And then back in my inbox, because I had those little options checked that I wanted to see when people are voting and I wanted it to schedule for me when it was done, it told me that Susie voted, it told me that Lance voted, and then it told me that since all of my people voted, it came to a consensus and it scheduled this meeting. So if I go back to my inbox, you'll see instead of those 3 meetings, I've got 1 and it's solid, right? It's scheduled. Now, to answer your other question regarding, kind of, do we need scheduling pool all the time? We can certainly start by creating a meeting and then using the find time option that Microsoft has. And this really looks at, availability within the next 10 days and kind of pick some areas for you. And here you can kind of see who's available and who's not. And if there's somebody who's maybe less important to be there, right, an optional attendee, you can choose your schedule based on that as well. So that would be another option, is to use that find time. And of course, you can go into scheduling assistant and then see all the details as well. But I think most people would be familiar with scheduling assistant at this point. It's been around for a while. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just send that meeting off. And then now we've got some prep to do for that meeting. So I want to use Teams to schedule, to really be like collaborative, right? So I didn't put an agenda necessarily in that meeting invite. I want to do that collaboratively so we can all pick what we want to talk through. And when you send it out in your inbox as a part of the meeting invite, it's kind of static. So I want to make this a little bit more interactive. So now I'm in Teams and I'm looking at my calendar. I can click on this meeting and go to chat. And this gives me the meeting chat, whether the meeting started or not, right? I still have the chat option. And well, honestly, depending on how long your name is for your meeting, you might see a couple different options up here. In my case, I'm seeing this +5, and I really want to go to my recap area. And ironically enough, this is where I can go after the meeting to see my notes, but it's also where I go before my meeting to add those notes, but it says recap. So that opens up this notes area here, and I can add a loop component to my meeting. So I don't know if anyone has used Loop yet. We'll talk about Loop a little bit more later. But basically, it is a collaborative workspace that really enables us to kind of co-create, and it stays in sync with Teams and Outlook and Word and things like that. So we can start to create our agenda out here and prep for that meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple things to my agenda. Look how fast I can type. It's awesome. And so I can prep, and then I can go to my chat and I can tell people, hey, I added some stuff to this meeting. So if you want to add anything, go for it, right? So I can add that. It looks like Lance did and gave me a message, so I can go kind of check out what Lance is doing. So if I go back to that recap in my notes, I can see that he's in the middle of typing some things on our agenda. So that's cool. We're collaborating. We're kind of looking at things ahead of time. And then the other thing I can do, if we're kind of whiteboard people, I can use a meeting whiteboard in a similar way. And I don't have to do all of these things, right? I'm showing you kind of all of these things. Every one of these things for a meeting might be a little bit much, but pick what makes sense for you guys and for the purpose of the meeting and how you like to collaborate, and then try those out. So in this case, I'm in the whiteboard that's associated with this meeting. And here I've got some Copilot options that can help me get started. So in this case, I'm gonna do some things that says, we're launching this M365 tools, right, and training. Create some stickies to help me get started with what I think we should cover during our meeting or how we should collaborate during the meeting. So I'm prepping the meeting so that we can have something to start with. So Copilot created some suggestions for me based on my prompt, and I can go ahead and add those cards in. So I don't know if anyone's used Whiteboard from Microsoft or Miro or Lucid, but the concept is similar, right? So I'm adding some stickies that we can talk through during the meeting. So that's one way to kind of help get started. And then when I'm ready to do a little bit of prep, so maybe I did this all as the person who owns the meeting. I'm trying to get everybody lined up, right? I'm taking my time. But as an attendee, I might want to kind of prep a day before and see what I need to know. So depending on Copilot licensing, I have the option to prep for this meeting. So I can see on my calendar this prep for meeting option. And then that'll allow me to get an overview, and if there's documents that were shared ahead of time, I can see those documents. And so as an attendee, I can do my prep as well. And then when I'm ready to join the meeting, I can go ahead and do that. And that agenda, that collaborative agenda that we worked on at the beginning, shows up automatically in my notes section. You can see that here under notes. And I can also do a couple things to help me during the meeting. So one of the things I'm going to do is a turn on facilitator. Facilitator is great, right? It's going to take our notes for us. I'm going to go ahead and turn that on. It's AI powered. It's part of your Copilot license, and it is going to keep us organized during the meeting, make us more productive, make us more action oriented. And so what it does is it shows up in our chat. And so you can see here it turned on, and it tells everybody, hey, here's the things that I can do. And then if you need me, just type at facilitator in the chat and then ask me a question, and I'll kind of help you with that. And then it also grabbed our agenda from the notes that we put together earlier. And it carved out our meeting based on those 4 agenda points, right? So it's kind of trying to keep us on track. So it's like, okay, I think I'm going to give, about a quarter of the meeting to each of these, and maybe the timeline gets a little bit less at the end. So it's starting to help us keep on track that way. And then while you're, all of a sudden it'll just start typing like crazy, right? And it'll be kind of summarizing some key decisions and some open questions as we go through that meeting. And then it'll tell us if we're close to the end of that meeting, 5 minutes over that meeting, hey, you better wrap up. You better keep moving on. So it's kind of our timekeeper as well.
Hey, Libby, quick
Yes.
question. When you talk about Copilot throughout the session today, is it the free Copilot or paid version of Copilot?
Paid version of Copilot, yes, the Microsoft 365 Copilot. Copilot Chat, which is the free version, it kind of shows up in its own area, right? So under Copilot Chat, or if you go to office.com, that is now like the Copilot Chat screen. And Microsoft is starting to add some things into the Outlook and Word and PowerPoint that are the free version. And it's really mainly just that kind of window next to the side where you're in PowerPoint and you can see your Copilot chat and ask questions at the same time, but it's not quite the same as the embedded version of the Microsoft 365 Copilot that you have to pay for.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so we are done with the meeting. So let's go back to our kind of chat here, and we see that we've finished the meeting. There's been some chat messages in here, and then we get this recap screen. So here's where we can see the speakers, the transcript, who attended, and even how much they participated. Did they raise their hands? Did they come off mute and ask a question? Those types of things. And then that agenda notes that we had originally created in Loop are accessible here. And then we've got that recap. So we need to kind of know what's going to happen after this meeting, right? We had the meeting. So here's our AI summary. Because we turned on Facilitator, Facilitator automatically transcribes that meeting. And so we can see these AI notes because I have the right, kind of version of the software to be able to see that. You can actually see this in Teams Premium or in Copilot, so depending on what you have there. So here's our AI summary. We can also see that transcript, and we can search and ask questions, kind of search questions in that transcript, and also download it if we want. And then we can also see those notes. That loop note component that we were creating is here as well. And then in this case, this meeting happened to have a couple parts. So you can see that there's multiple parts we could have information on as well. Okay, so the meeting ended, and now we have a couple different options. I don't know if you guys are OneNote users. I probably don't even want to say how long I've been using OneNote. It's been a really long time. So I love it, right? And it's a really good way to kind of keep organized afterward. If you're used to using OneNote, it's that flexible digital notebook that I always call it my trapper keeper. for those who are as old as me and, like the Trapper Keepers back in the day. And that really helps us stay organized. And so if we want to share information with people who weren't in that meeting, for example, or we want to just kind of have our meeting notes all in one area, I like to use OneNote for that. And the really cool thing is that OneNote has this integration that will help us stay organized without a lot of effort. So in our details, meeting details area here, we have details for the meetings that happen on specific days, right? I can go to my calendar and look for other days, but in this case, here's that training program that we did. So I can go ahead and click this. It actually adds all of that information to the page. And because we recorded it with Facilitator and Copilot, we have the AI summary all right here in our notes. We have our tasks all right here in our notes. And we have that loop component that got created throughout that meeting in here as well. So just a good kind of thing to think through. Even if we're not going to do all of the effort with the loop agenda and some of those things, we can at least start small by recording a meeting and adding those notes in here.
Libby, can I interrupt with a question?
You may.
Just by the way, so everybody knows, if she's doing training, she talks slower. Awareness training is like, okay, show them as much and tease them. So you're doing great.
Yeah.
So Lisa has a question for you. If your agenda already exists in Word, how do you integrate it with a facilitator?
Well, I would probably challenge you to not have your agendas in Word anymore. So, because it's kind of stuck in a place, right? Word is kind of just, it's kind of stuck there. It's a document. It's not, it obviously Word is collaborative, but it's not part of the process here, right? It's so thinking about either using OneNote or using the meeting notes. So the loop part of it might make more sense. I was just talking to a client the other day who had all of their, they basically took all their meeting notes and put them in Word and then dumped them into a folder. Yeah, then I'm not interacting with them. I'm not going to go look at those notes. But if they're in Loop or if they're in OneNote, then they're kind of all in an area I can hit search and search everything. So it might be something to think about in terms of updating that process a little bit.
Awesome. Thanks. That's great.
Okay, all right, so let's jump into Loop a little bit. So as I mentioned already, it's that collaborative workspace. It syncs across. You saw it in Teams. You'll see it in Outlook at some point. It's in OneNote. You'll see it in Word. So you can kind of do anything you want with it. It's a collection of portable components. So tasks and tables and notes and things like that. So we have our loop that got created from our meeting. So I'm just opening it in the Loop app so you can kind of see it all on the big screen here. And so basically when we created that agenda, it made that loop with our meeting name. And then because we turned on Facilitator, AI generated our notes, right? So it's telling us that. So it created these decisions, it created the open question, it added these meeting notes. We added the agenda, but it kind of added everything up and around that area. And then it also added this area for follow-up tasks. So it's listening, and we're kind of talking about what, okay, Susie should follow up with this, Lance should follow up with this, and it's hearing that, and it's starting to articulate that in these follow-up tasks here. So it created one for me, and then I can go ahead and assign who I want that to be assigned to, and I can pick a date that I want that person to have it done by. And I can add a new task. So I can add some on my own, and I can, along with the ones that it created for me. So if I'm like, well, we really should add this other task here, we can do that. And we can assign Susie, and we can pick a date. And so now that we've done that, we can either manage that within this loop for the meeting, or we have the ability to go into Planner. So this is connected to Planner. And if I open Planner, and if you haven't used Planner before, visual task management system, you can think of it as Kanban boards or team coordination. There's different ways for you to organize your content out there. And so the Loop has component that we just saw is connected to Planner. So those two things that we just put into that loop are here in that to-do bucket, because that's the bucket that was defaulted for us. And we have the ability to manage these cards. I can click on a card and choose progress, kind of update my progress. I can add a description. I can kind of manage my work in here. I can also check that I've done this. I've kind of checked that off my list. And since it is integrated with the task part of our loop, if I go back to the loop, you'll see that that is checked off, right? So whether we're managing that in our planner or managing that in Loop, it's the same component and it's fully integrated and updating our tasks.
That is super cool. Libby, we have a question about
Yes,
some of the agenda stuff, but I don't want to stop you if you're almost wrapping up this part.
go for it.
Okay, cool. So Stacy's asking if, let's see, if you have to post online a public facing version of an agenda, can it
Mm.
be put in a template that already includes the base information being like time, place, location, and meeting, that kind of stuff?
For externally, you're saying?
Stacy, you're welcome to unmute if you want to clarify, but yeah, it looked like it was post online, a public facing version of the agenda. So it's definitely is externally facing.
I see. Well, in that case, oh no, okay, no microphone. No worries, Stacy. I think it depends on how you're posting that online. So it's probably not going to be in this tool set, right? So maybe that is where your Word document comes in, or if you're making a page on a website, that might be where that comes in. I'm guessing that it's not going to be part of this because you're not going to want to figure out how to permission a loop or something like that to be seen, kind of globally on a website. Christy, did you have a question? Or you?
Oh,
Oh no, she's jumping. Okay,
yeah,
that's
she had to
my bad.
jump.
I
She's
shouldn't I
saying,
should stop reading comments. That's what you're supposed to do. So
yeah, she's saying thank you.
yes, I would
Thanks for
get.
popping in.
Otherwise, I'll get sucked in. Okay, I am actually almost done. But one of the things I want to talk through is what happens now. Right, we've got all this good information is all attached to this meeting, and I don't want to lose it. So how can I find it later? So one of the things that I like to do is use my favorites. So that meeting will come up as a meeting chat. I can click the ellipsis and I can do the move to, and I can add it to my favorites, and that'll pop up here. So now I can find it quickly. And maybe I want to create a new section that's called, their Microsoft 365 training program. And I can have all the meetings that we have underneath there. Or if I'm even more organized, I can create a channel meeting in Teams, or I can have a recurring meeting where I don't have to kind of continue to do that. But it's helpful to be able to find this later. So I'm making it one of my favorites is a good option there. And because there's a lot of good stuff in here, right? I can still go back to the recap and the whiteboard and the agenda and notes down here. And then if people throughout the week or whatever start to add more things to the chat, I have access to that as well. So in this case, Lance added a document. And then if I want to see anything that happened in the chat in just kind of summary form in terms of did they share a link? Did they share a document that I want to go find? I have that shared channel, which lets me be able to see anything that was sent during that meeting. So it kind of takes all the text out of my chat and just gives me the good stuff, right? Here's the PDF and here's the meeting recordings. And if they sent any links, I can see those as well. So that's just some quick kind of summary here. So as I mentioned, I don't expect everybody to use all of these things every time they're scheduling a meeting, but just kind of understanding that they exist, right? And then picking the thing that works best for your team will help. Will help with the engagement of the meeting. It'll help with making sure that you've talked about the right things. You didn't run out of time, right? That facilitator will help you with their timekeeping if you have that version of Copilot. And then that follow-up. How are we following up and making sure that we're getting prepared for that next meeting? All of that stuff is in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just that's kind of my wrap up. And then Jan, you want to take it from here?
Yeah, just a couple points, and then we're going to open it up for bigger Q&A. And feel free to continue entering into chat any questions you have, because Libby can look at that while I'm talking. A lot of people will find our videos on YouTube and be like, who the heck is CTC productivity? So we just want to kind of explain what we do. We really typically come into a company because they want to start getting onto Microsoft 365, or they've tried and they maybe have made a little bit of a mess of it. And so we always say we like to come in and peek under the hood and see how things are set up. It's critical that that foundation is set up properly in this day and age. You definitely want the CEO to be able to use Copilot to access everything. And it starts with really setting up that foundation of Teams, SharePoint, and permissions properly at the beginning to be able to allow that to happen. So we often will come up with the architecture that makes sense for that particular business, because workflows are different in every company. We'll help migrate everything over to the right setup. And then we move into the optimize phase, which is a lot of what Libby's helping you with now. Like, how do we add on and use all these tools again to streamline workflow, leveraging Copilot, lots of different things. And then our intention is always to wrap up. We never want our clients to feel they're dependent on us. But I will say we have clients for years. I don't even know what we're doing with them. I'm assuming we're working on Copilot, but we just, yeah, we tend to have a great partnership with companies, and they keep us around. It's expensive to hire a Microsoft 365 consultant. And so most companies can't afford that as an employee, but they can afford somebody as a consultant assisting them. So that's what we're about. We do have a particular methodology we follow. Installing the software is the easy part, right? Architecting it and all that is complex, but also getting people to adopt the software is a really critical piece. And so what we go ahead, Libby, you can go next one. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. And so what we always say is, people will call us and they'll say, hey, Jan, can you train us on, like OneNote? And we're like, sure, we could train you on OneNote, but unless everybody in the company understands how they're going to use OneNote in their business workflow, it's not going to work very well. People are going to hear about the 20 bells and whistles, but not know how to apply it. And so we always say it's important, again, to come up with your rules of engagement or your operations manual and how your business is going to run on this technology. And then you do the training and teach people so that they know coming out of a training that tomorrow they're going to have to start using that exact tool in the way that we just explained. So it makes training a much better investment and much more effective. And so, yeah, we have lots of strategies around adoption. Go ahead, Libby, you can go to the next one. It looks like there's a couple questions in there in chat for you too, Libby. So we're going to wrap up the slides. Just a reminder again, our next webinar is in January, and I'm entering the links into chat again, and Libby will show you the QR code. That's going to be on Microsoft Dynamics. And just like today, I know I will learn a ton. Libby, I learned so much from you. Thank you. I love my team. I'm very blessed, and I learned more than I think everybody else on the webinar. So perfect. So I think is the next, yeah, so we can go ahead and stop sharing then. So we'll go ahead and open it up for Q&A. And if you feel free to ask question. Nancy, did you enter some questions in a chat? Okay, Libby, you want to read those and
I
answer?
did, but if someone else has a question, I can always go on the bottom of the list,
Okay, all right,
so.
perfect. Let's
But
go
it
there.
might help because you asked the one question, Jan, that I was going to ask Libby of several of the features inside of Teams when she's in the meetings. Prepare for it; those are licensed. But are there components of that non-licensed Copilot get access to? Like after the meeting, if you take that and you put it over into a OneNote, if I don't have a
Yes.
Copilot license, do I still get access to all that information?
Yes, that is one of the reasons why I like the OneNote solution, because people who either weren't in the meeting or don't have the right licensing can still get the AI summary and be able to search and filter and be able to find that information. So there are a couple of things that you can get if a meeting was recorded. Obviously, anybody in the meeting can see the recording and the transcript and the some versions of the attendance, right? You can't see necessarily all the bells and whistles, but you can see some of those versions. If I wasn't in the meeting, I can't see any of that stuff unless somebody adds me right to the meeting. So that's why getting it into a loop where I can add those people to that loop, or getting it into OneNote where they already have access to it, really helps take what happened in that meeting to a broader audience if it needs to be, without worrying about that licensing component. And then you asked about Loop. So here, I guess I'll say here's one of my one of the things I hope they change soon is the fact that, yes, it creates a new Loop page when you create meeting. And then when you're looking at that task list that we had, it basically creates a new planner for that particular session of that meeting. And it would be nice if I could choose which plan I wanted those tasks to go to instead of having them be kind of siloed in that meeting. So that is one of the areas where I'm hoping that they'll kind of Microsoft to do a little bit of work on.
All right, thank you.
Awesome. So feel free to unmute yourself or enter into chat if you have questions. Libby, this was excellent. So much information. And I always tell clients we don't tend to promote beta tools within Microsoft. It's after they've been around a while and we know like really that they add value and not more pain. And so this was helpful to learn about some of the ones that have now been around for a bit.
Right. Well, and one of the things that I think was really important that Libby said today was that you don't have to use all the tools. And that's what, as Libby and I and Jan, as we work with clients, they're like, but there's all this stuff and how am I supposed to learn it? And how is it supposed to interact with each other? And it doesn't have to. If there is one of those tools, if you guys all of a sudden go, oh my gosh, OneNote is the way to go, then go with OneNote and implement that and get everybody on board with it. You don't have to use 6 tools for every meeting.
Yeah, I feel like that's where we add value is there's so many tools and a lot of them do the same thing. And so it's kind of hearing what you like or what really works and what integrates. And yeah, it's tough. And Microsoft is on turbocharge, adding more and more tools and features.
Yeah,
It's fascinating.
exactly. I would say like if you've never used OneNote, then try Loop because you know you don't have anything to lose. But I'm a big OneNote person, and now I have to make the decision myself. Like, well, what goes in OneNote and what should be Loop, right? Because they do kind of compete with each other in terms of what they can do.
For sure. Well, it doesn't look like we have questions. You guys are welcome to ask about anything in the Microsoft 365 suite. Hopefully we could answer it with the skills we have on the team. But if nobody's asking questions, we can go ahead and wrap it up. So, oh, thanks, Diana. I appreciate that. So really great info. Thank you. Yeah, it was a great session. So, all right, everybody, have a wonderful weekend. Thanks again for joining us today. You will get a copy of the recording after as well. So feel free to share it with friends and colleagues and all of that. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.